my mom's birthday was the same as the birthday of Memphis, and my mom was an identical twin when she was born. And Nifis is, I think, the correct way to pronounce her name. The goddess, Egyptian goddess that I'm talking about, it was the goddess of death. You know, so my mom was an identical twin, and her twin was lucky enough to be adopted off when she was a kid because my mom was raised by a Zionist, very evil woman. And I mentioned a story about how my dad killed my uncle, and my uncle was good friends with uh, my grandmother, who had been married, I don't know, 5, 7 times and divorced. But she was brutal. She was Epstein brutal. My mom was tortured from the time she was 3 years old up. My mom had no religion when she died. She does not want to be reborn. She does not want to go to heaven. She does not want any kind of religion whatsoever. My mom named me Diablo at birth after my father. She said he was the devil. My mom fought the blizzard of the century to get to Roanoke Memorial Hospital for me to be born. And my dad fought that same blizzard to get to that hospital to make sure I wasn't named after him. You know, that's how I ended up having the name Sean after her brother, who was a pagan, one of the 1% pagans, motorcycle gang. That's what my uncles on my mom's side turned out to be, three of them at least. And she had 8 brothers and sisters total. That was she was raised with, aside from her twin that was adopted off. And my mom, she was, a good person, and she was always honest, and she taught us, as much as she could. She taught me how to read and write from the time I was 4 years old because I asked her to on my birthday. I was like, I want to learn how to read and write for my birthday. So she started teaching me every day, and she did a good job too. And I started learning math and everything too. And, I was reading quite well when I started school already, you know. And when my uncle died, I never have a fear of death. And the main reason is because when my dad killed my uncle, later that night, when I was in the room with my mom, and I'm sitting on the head of the bed, and she's sitting there, and got a knock on the door. My mom answered the door, and Alvin came in, and he told my mom that he had to leave. He's like, "I'm sorry, Chris, I gotta go. I have to leave now," you know. And when he said that, my mom started crying, you know, and I'm just watching, and he left, and that was it. But he was already dead, and that just let me realize that no, you don't exactly die. There's more to this world and to this life, you know. So I have no fear of death. I don't want to die. I don't want to. I don't exactly have to worry about it. There's a whole lot I'm going to do in this world. You know, there's a lot to get done in this world. It's absolutely beautiful. You know, and you become more powerful after death if you live good in this world. That's fact. And that's one reason that they try to get you to do bad things or get you to engage in bad things. Bad things and good things. If you're protecting the world, you can do bad things without it being a bad thing. You know, use your evil for protection, and it's not bad. You know, but if you're going to try to slave and do actual bad things that you know are bad, then you're going to be weaker when you die. And you're not going to have anything left of you. You know, if you continue on in that manner. So he definitely didn't have the strength he had before. He had no glow to him. There was nothing spectacular about him. You know, he sounded weak. His voice sounded weak. He sounded defeated. You know, and that's what I remember was a defeated piece of shit coming in to say goodbye. You know, like I said, he knew my mom's mom also, and he was 10 years older than my father, which was about 10 years older than my mom. You know, and his name being Adkins, I think, was because my dad's father probably refused him to have his last name because he thought my grandmother cheated on him, or he was raising a kid that wasn't his. I don't know the whole story about that, you know, but I know the Adkins soon came into the family after my grandfather died when he was 66 years old and my father was born. See, my father's dad died when he was 6 months old, and his dad was 66 years old, or when he was born, and 67 when he died, just 6 months later, you know. So, anyway, y'all have a great day. Have a good night. I figure I'd let you know, there's no reason to fear death. There's a reason to fear what you do in this world before you go to the next one. There's no reason to fear death, you know. That's fact.